Coach.
All right, so we've got some policies coming before us. The first one is policy BDE. Reverend Collins was sent back to the committee, and there's also one that I've submitted with other board members. So we need to talk about if we want to move either of these forward.
Can I present mine now?
Sure.
Thank you, Connie.
Is this BDE?
BD.
This is the first proposal, not the
Proposal
second
one,
one.
just-
Not the counter proposal that comes later.
Reverend Collins had
Actually, it
it
gives him everything he wants.
at the last board meeting.
This proposal, what it does, it takes away the barrier of the liaison being the final authority on what goes on the agenda. It gives everybody, all the other board members, a fair chance, equal opportunity for the items on the agenda. When I worked with Tom Ducker, and we had talked about this issue, and he originally had in mind that anybody should be able to put an idea on committee. The board should be willing to listen to it and vet it, see where it goes that in committee. That's where things would originate at. And either they get approval or they would die. And so hopefully, by this presentation here, the scales become balanced. We move the liaison. Well, let's say, for example, 2 people agree on a subject, 3 agree on a subject, 6 agree on a subject for committee to hold. No one person can say, well, no, I don't want it on my agenda. The board has spoken that this group can put any item on any agenda as long as you follow the guidelines. The second thing it does is, let me read it, what it says. Policy BD has been revised to remove the language stating approval of the liaison for that category must agree. So that's to be struck with an item being added to the agenda by an individual board member with support of another board member. Additionally, the directive that the liaison may not be counted among the 2 sponsoring board members has been removed. Last is recommended that the agenda deadline be extended to 8:30 Tuesday preceding the COW meeting, which right now the current time is 12 o'clock.
Noon on Monday.
12 o'clock Monday morning. And for a lot of us, that's just a real busy time coming out for the weekend. So I figure if we can't go to Tuesday morning, we can try Monday at midnight, Monday close of business, but anything better than the middle of the day on a busy Monday morning. And then also what I've tried to do is make simple changes and not complicate the matter. So those are the simple changes you see right in front of you. It doesn't dramatically change policy, but it allows people like myself, Michael Miller, Kevin, or anybody that anybody that sometimes in minority can put stuff on the agenda. The way it has been is it's been very difficult for us to put anything on the committee to hold agenda because one vote destroys us.
Reverend Collins.
I'm almost done.
Okay.
Even if I get four other board members for committee to hold, that liaison still can stop it and they can't get on the agenda. So this I think was Ms. Darby that supported the idea of getting on the agenda, and that's how I was able to get it on. But I've been wanting it on the agenda for over a year. But so we're at this point now to try to make it fair for everyone, that we all can present items equally without depending on another person to say yes or no.
Thank you. So the changes before you are just as he stated, removing the liaison so any 2 board members can have an item placed on the agenda, and changing the agenda time from noon on Monday to 8:30 Tuesday morning. And I believe you said you'd be willing to negotiate that back to the close of business on Monday.
Yeah.
Kate, you're first.
2 things. One, the time. We've talked about this before. I followed up with Julie to ask about preparation. Right now the goal is that if with the deadline is noon on Monday, that's got to go to the liaisons for each area. Then they meet with the committee of the whole chair, got to get their backup together, and then get it to us by Wednesday. I think our goal is to get it out to the public sooner than later. So moving it to Tuesday just pushes that whole process back. And the thing is you don't just have Monday morning, you have the whole week, the week before to get it done. So I think we should keep it as it is. The piece on the liaisons, this policy we came up with and we modeled it after the Greenville policy, and we've certainly made some changes and I think revision is good.
Right.
But my concern about The liaison piece is, and I'm gonna use this as an example, sorry, Reverend Collins, is that we had on both, on the committee of the whole agenda and on the board agenda to talk about Dunstan. The decision for Dunstan was made in August of 2014 that you voted on. And so it's just to have some checks and balances that we all could come up with all kinds of items that we want to have on the agenda. I know that Priscilla and Cindy have planned out the SEC agenda for most of the year, and I just feel like the liaison for that area should have, should be able to say, okay, for this to be on the agenda, it's relevant. If we're bringing things to the agenda that we voted on years ago and is documented in numerous places, I feel like that's not the highest and best use of our time.
Kevin?
That sounds like dictatorship.
It's not dictatorship.
I let you talk, I ain't say nothing. That sounds like dictatorship because our board members should have a right to put anything on the agenda that they feel like they need to discuss. If one or two board members agree with it and it's within the body of the law, then it should be discussed. Just like the issue we tried to put on the agenda last week. It didn't, if you let a liaison scuttle it because you feel like he didn't want us to discuss it. So therefore.
What issue are you talking about? Clarify
Let her
that.
finish.
What issue are you talking about with Scott?
Did I interrupt you?
I'm just asking you to
Could you
clarify
let me
that.
finish talking, please? Thank you, dear. But we should be able to, in past boards that I've been associated with, we were able to discuss items, and if the chair had an issue or concern, they could talk it over with that board member and figure out if it's deemable to put on the agenda. And it should not be dictated to one person to say yay or no. If the rules and guidelines say that it is agreeable for that person to put it on the board, on the agenda, then it's put on the agenda. If it gets outvoted, it just gets outvoted. That's the democratic process. That's all.
We're saying the same thing.
I don't think so.
Anybody else?
So can I just clarify? So what was scuttled? I don't
The
understand
bank,
what
the
was
piece of it,
scuttled.
the-
The depositing $1 million
The bank.
into a particular bank.
The African American banks.
Okay. Right. But so right now, though, the policy, the process is 2 board members plus liaison. So that.
The liaison can scuttle it. So if it's 2 board members that can place it on the
Okay.
agenda, it can just be placed on the
So
agenda.
we understand that you two want the liaison. We understand that Kate, or don't want the liaison. We understand that Kate does. We understand the positions. I don't think any 3 of y'all are gonna change your minds. Does anybody else have anything?
Priscilla, yeah,
I thought you
Yeah.
put your hand up.
I am a liaison, and I believe in the year and a half or however long I've been that. I believe, but I could be wrong, that only once I've been asked to put something on the agenda, and it was very recently. And it is also true that Cindy and I have, and I can send it to everybody, we have something we developed. Schools run on a schedule, and there's certain things that have to happen at a certain time, and so we basically put together what we are going to discuss every month, so everything proceeds in an orderly fashion. And there was a reason, and I can't really discuss it publicly, why I didn't put that request on the agenda. I mean, I'm happy to talk to anyone personally. You can always call me up and ask me, but I just got it as a notice that you wanted it on the agenda. And there's a reason why it's not on the agenda. It's not just because I didn't want it on the agenda.
Mr. Miller?
I'll just say this, I think, even when we disagree with one another and/or we don't see the point the other person is trying to make, to stifle that conversation to me is contrary to our ability to have further discussion. And so I'm a liaison, and so I could, if I so chose to, not allow anybody to put something on the agenda because I might not find it important, or I might not find it necessary, or the case point, well, we voted on that in 2014, so I don't want to hear about it anymore, right? That doesn't mean that the conversation does not merit more dialogue. And because that is, I think, the point that Collins and Hollenshed is making, being a person who might want to put something on the agenda, I don't feel that Priscilla would have the right to say, well, Michael, I'm not going to put that on the agenda because I don't think it has merit. I'm not saying you do that, but I don't think she should have the authority to do that. Or Cindy when it comes to policy, or Eric when he was on transportation. Or I don't think one of us should have the ability to do that. If 2 or more board members would like to have something discussed. Now, I'm not saying they're asking the district to go out and do 8 hours of
Yeah,
research.
right, not that.
If they want to have a conversation, information to have a conversation about any given topic, why wouldn't they have the ability to do that, right?
So
I have a so follow
I
up.
think, well, we're gonna talk about the next
Well, no,
policy.
can I just ask one question? But at your point, the staff did, just an example, on Dunstan, the staff did have to go out and do a bunch of work on that.
Which could probably be proposed number 2. So let's talk about the second BDE proposal.
So let me ask you this, before you go ahead, can we, I'd like us to vote separately, you know, if we're gonna
Sure.
vote.
So I need a motion on Chris's policy.
I'm not, I didn't call the question. but-
I am.
Okay.
So I want to hear,
Yeah.
your policy before we vote.
Chris wants to vote, so you
No, he
two.
does, he wants us to hear
Separate.
both, and we'll
Okay.
figure it out.
So-
Yours might solve his problems, or maybe we can
So you
work.
want to
hear what
vote on
you
them
have to say.
separately? Right.
Let's see what you got to say, but I looked at it already.
Okay.
Pretty striking.
So what I basically did was try to line it up to match the requirements to get it on the, remember, if the liaison says no, it goes straight to the board agenda.
No, it doesn't.
Just wait, remember, if the liaison says no to the cow, you have another policy that says any 4 board members can put something on the board agenda without anybody's veto power. So so there is a way to get something straight to the board agenda that does not allow any member of the board to block. So I kind of lined this up to match that, and then address the thing of what happens when we get together and put something on the agenda. We should be the ones to control what happens to it. So that's really the changes that are in here. It's a lot of red because I just rearranged sentences, but it still has that, the items, I did put something in here about special called board meetings. Occasionally, items can be placed directly on the board meeting agenda, but only as determined by the board chair and the superintendent, so that we discourage things going straight to the board agenda without board members asking. Then the next thing is, down here in the bottom of the
Bless you.
first page, is because there are 9 members on the committee of the whole, I just matched the policy for 9 members on the board. How do 9 members get something on the board agenda? Any 4 board members. So I just wrote that the agenda liaison will work with the staff and still develop the agenda, but consistent with that policy, 4 board members can submit an item to be placed on the cow agenda, same as they could for the regular agenda. And I put down there that rather than a pending staff action, just as Michael said, if 4 board members want to submit an item to the cow agenda, it's got to be submitted to the appropriate district staff, the cow chair and the board chair with the backup material. That's the way it is now in the current policy, just adds the board chair. And then it said, instead of having the superintendent prepare it with a projected response date, the cow determines when the action will be taken. Then on the next page, what's been removed there is actually in other areas except
What page number you was it?
third page. I'm on the second page.
It's on the second page.
So
Right here.
that's everywhere else. That paragraph is just what I read to you in the earlier paragraph. I just made it smaller. And then the next change is instead of the category to which the item most closely relates, I just made it a little less wordy and said the appropriate category. And then the last change is that an agenda item can be placed on the board's agenda with a supermajority consent as opposed to unanimous consent. So we've had several times where someone will just say no because they don't want it under consent, when the will of, like Chris just said, no one should have the right to veto the will of the board. So now it just says a supermajority, so it can't be a simple majority, can place it on the potential consent. So those are the only changes. 4 board members without,
More than
The
that.
next page you have more.
You got more changes than that, a lot more.
sorry,
You revised the whole
And
policy
you
basically?
deleted that whole.
That whole paragraph is on page 1. That's what I was telling you. If you read it, it's because it went in under the agendas there. And then, I'm sorry, I kept going.
Yeah, you did the whole policy.
Page 3.
Yep. So the board, Reverend Collins, I didn't interrupt you.
I'm sorry.
The board members assigned to the committee are appointed by the chairman and confirmed by. You okay?
No.
Yeah.
Y'all
So-
gotta stop that snickering.
What happened before was that the board chair assigned the committee members to the audit and finance, and that stays the same. I just moved the sentence to a different space so that the membership of the committee members is with the first sentence talking about the standalone committee, and then the members appointed by the board, by the chairman, approved by, affirmed by the board. That's just switching the sentence. The next sentence is just moving it up so that if we're talking about how the chair gets selected, I moved that sentence from the bottom paragraph up to say how the vice chair gets selected. There are no changes to what happened there. The one change to the Audit and Finance Committee I made, and I wanted to be consistent with the Health Advisory Committee, is as it stands now, the members of the Audit and Finance Committee tell you who they want to be on the Audit and Finance Committee. Remember, now that's as it stands now,
The
Reverend
outside
Collins.
members, right?
The outside members.
Right. The members apply to the Audit and Finance Committee. The Audit and Finance Committee interviews the members, and the Audit and Finance Committee tells us their recommendations. All I did was change this process to match our one other permanent board committee, which is HAC, in which those people apply to the board, and the board votes to put them on the Audit and Finance. So the only changes under Audit and Finance are moving the sentences about how the chair is selected and the vice chair so that they're next to each other, because they're the same sentence, just moved. And rather than having the Audit and Finance Committee interview the candidates and select the candidates for those positions, just like the HAC, the board will select that. And then down at the bottom, for the meetings, I thought 2 minutes was not quite enough. And so I thought we should expand it to 5 minutes. We're using it 5 minutes anyway. And I said, and because the questions tend
I'm sorry.
And because the questions tend to be long, and sometimes the answers are eating into your time for when they're responding, I set up a system where everybody can ask 2 questions, and then it moves on to the next person, regardless of time. Because if Natalie wants to provide an answer that takes longer than 5 minutes, I still think you ought to be able to ask a second question. Then the board members, when their turn is up, they have to pass it on. Of course, they're expected to come to prepared, but there is an out. If we get all the way around and somebody still wants questions, the board, again, we control the flow of the work. We vote by supermajority to continue the discussion for as long as we want. So the final page, that's what it says. It says when each member has had an opportunity to participate. So we remove the 10-minute total per item or any per item, put it to number of questions, and then supermajority of the board or the members present can continue the discussion. The final paragraph says that the board meetings ought to be for voting. So we've got Cal, and this is where I have said this before. We've got Cal. We've changed the Cal so that we can continue to ask questions as long as we, the members of the committee, continue to do so. We direct the staff to be available for questions. We limit the number of board meetings that occur in less than 2 weeks from the Cal, giving you Cal, 2 weeks to talk to your constituency, time to call board staff, and staff available before the board meeting, so that when we go to the board meeting, we vote. Because the true conversations that need to happen about these items don't need to happen inside this room. They need to happen inside the neighborhood association I'm going to tonight. They need to happen at the dinner Michael's going to go to. They need to happen when Kevin goes to something in the weekend. That's when we should be finding out what our constituency wants. So those are the changes. It is 4 board members, no liaison. It is having the if an item comes to the board rather than the superintendent putting it on, or comes to the COW rather than the superintendent putting it on there pending approval, it goes on there and the board decides what to do. It is changing a word to appropriate. Rather than unanimous to go to potential consent, it's a supermajority of members present. It lines up the audit and finance committee so that it's the citizen members are selected the same way they are for HAC. And it changes the format of question and answer to questions and answers and not trying to get questions and answers done quickly. Kate?
Kevin, you want
Kevin?
this water? You're down the coffee. I have a
Thank
drink
you.
out of it.
This is
Right.
the air conditioning.
Yeah.
Thank
I
you.
know, which I like. So my two things on this version, I'll start at the back first. I think Mr. Ducker put in the whole 2-minute thing for board meetings, for committee meetings, because sometimes we tended to go on and on. And I, we have a staff person, so she does a great job over there of monitoring it, but we really, none of us stick to it. We go past it and we give each other grief and tell each other to stop, but we don't really enforce it. And I think, I'm open to making a change if it's gonna make us this more productive. I think that asking somebody to keep track of that, so if Michael's used all of his allotted time during the COW meeting, then he can only talk for 3 minutes in the board meeting. I'm not gonna be able to stop Michael from speaking
That's
at the
BS.
board meeting. So I think that we, clearly today, there are a lot of things that we could do to work together and respect each other better. And we
Oh,
should
the
do it.
irony.
So,
So we spent 10 minutes on
Cindy.
this, on this
yep.
topic.
And my other
so-
thing is I'd like the liaison
So,
back in there.
Kate, that final paragraph, you want it removed.
Yes, I think that we should remove it.
And the, go back, where's the other one?
The other one is I think, I think that we should continue to have the liaison,
So
approval.
I need you to go to the last paragraph of the first page and tell me what kind of language you want to insert. Because I've marked out the one on the back, that was easy, but what's the insert?
So while she's thinking, I'll go ahead and make one comment. We go through these policies, and my thing is, if we're not gonna adhere to the policies that we set,
Why do we make them?
we don't need to be ticking the time clocker, and, we might as well just sit here all day long, because it's for not to have a policy we agree upon, but we don't stick within the time frame. So if it's 2 minutes, then it's 2 minutes of what it is. If it's 5 minutes, then it's 5 minutes of what it is. We just have to stick to the policy that we set, because if that's the case, then every policy we have in the book, we can't judge anybody else on them if we're not following them ourselves. And we must lead by example, so.
Would you prefer to remove the time and keep it just at the number of questions?
No, because if we don't remove the time, we'll be here till 2 o'clock in the morning.
just
You know,
asking,
Because
I'm
people will be
just
talking all day long, and I think, and no one adhered to the request that the committee of the whole chair sent out about submitting questions prior to, so that when these presentations are made today, that the presenter can include those answers within those discussion questions. And yet today, we had 50 million questions on the information that we already had to review prior to today. So we set policies, but we don't
I did get a
follow these
question.
policies
I
at
was
all.
asking a
So,
question.
we're revamping these, and we don't even stick to the time. The timekeeper takes the talk, and guess what? Everybody keeps on talking. So, why do it if we're not gonna follow it?
Well, and I can answer one thing. I think the 2 minutes is not adequate. I haven't heard a staff member give an answer in less than 2 minutes today, and I don't think we want them to give an answer in less than 2 minutes, because we want to know what's going on. And it's no one's fault, but it says that the discussion is limited to 2 minutes, and that would give Natalie 2 minutes to talk about a legal issue, So I thought a good compromise to that, because I know we want to keep time moving, but the reality is, what if we did numbers of questions and kept it moving around, and then the board voted if we continued the discussion? So Jeff doesn't have to sit over there and talk as fast as he humanly can, because Michael's itching to get one more question in before the timer goes off. So I initially wanted to remove the time and make it a question-based thing, but I
No, I think we need to keep.
We need the
in.
time.
Okay.
We need-
Kevin, I'm gonna put you next. Kate, give me your thing so we can keep up.
Okay, well, so my thing was just to get rid of the
got
last red
that.
paragraph. The other stuff I'd be okay with changing, because that gives people more time to talk. And then I would say on the first page, the last paragraph where it says 4 board members may submit an item, then we need to add in there the same language of. with the
Four board members, one of whom must be the liaison.
Yeah, with the approval of the liaison for that category.
Kevin?
I like what you proposed. I just wish on my concern that we deal with the issue at hand. What Chris proposed first and vote on that. And then I would be willing to discuss and go through what you proposed. I think those some admirable changes, but I'd like to soak that up a little bit more.
Sure. I think you were the one that stopped me from doing the vote the first time on the separate
Yeah.
one. So,
Yeah.
let's call the vote on Reverend.
But I like what you're saying.
I know. On proposal number 1, Chris has made a motion to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
And we'll take a vote. So Chris, I'm putting you as the person who proposed it, and Kevin is the second.
Yes.
Priscilla?
This is, okay,
This
this
is
is
option
just the first one.
Right.
Okay. No.
Kevin?
Yes.
Stops?
I'm gonna have to vote no because I don't like the Tuesday thing, sorry.
We can fix
The
that.
who?
You can fix
We can
that.
fix that, Chris.
Collins?
That's not the motion.
Reverend Collins?
Yes.
Yes.
I don't like the Tuesday thing.
Kate?
No.
Miller?
I'm gonna vote yeah.
I need to vote.
Close enough.
I got a choice, guy. I always got a choice.
Okay, and I vote no, so this policy proposal, first
But I'm not
reading
gonna vote for a
fails.
5 thing either.
So now, we can discuss the second one.
Can I offer a second motion? I'd like to offer a second motion. At this time, I want to propose the same thing, except change the Tuesday deadline to close the business on Monday.
Sure, we will put
Right,
that
give me a
down as
second.
number 3. My item's up next.
But you're not doing yours yet, though.
No, that's what I'm trying to tell you, yes, you are.
All right, so I want to make it.
So then, Chris, I'm putting another motion on the table that if that one fails, if the next one fails, we come back to your third
No, but it's
proposal.
independent of that now.
I know,
Do that.
but if, right,
Right, but the
so,
only thing you're changing is, I
Right.
think,
The time.
the
Question.
thing is we
So-
gotta keep it at noon on Monday.
I have a question.
Reverend Collins.
so, this
Okay,
one's
I have one more question for you.
okay, he just wants to change the time.
Time to end the.
Reverend Collins,
Okay, so see on a couple of things, since you're on to yours now, you asked, you said on the last page 4, a supermajority vote of the committee members present
right,
is required to continue debate.
yes,
And I think it shouldn't be to continue debate, it should be to end debate. So in other words, if the board is discussing an issue, and somebody will say, well, hey, I want to shut down, then the burden is on that person then, that they get 5 other vote supporters to shut it down, not to continue talking, but if you want to close discussion and you get a super majority then to shut it down, not to continue the discussion, that to me, that wouldn't be fair.
well,
Don't we
first
just call
off,
the
it doesn't say that exactly. What it
Being
says is
rude.
everybody gets an opportunity to talk before we can shut any discussion down.
But super majority is what you say is right here.
Right,
Is,
and if you read that, that's a
to
supermajority of.
continue.
To continue the debate, and if you go to the page before that, it's the other part of that sentence that says each board member may ask up to 2 questions before allowing another board member their turn. And then after everybody's had their turn, a supermajority.
I understand that.
Okay, so
So-
I don't accept your change, but we can
No,
we can log
I'm
it.
pointing that out. The other thing is that, and keep mentioning also, proposing that when you get 4 board members already to agree to an item, you already lobbied, you already campaigned, you already got votes secured. That's really not what it's about. The idea of the committee is that you present ideas, you can share with the board, and either the board likes it after the debate or they don't like it. You don't come with a preloaded gun. I got my voters, and this is what it's going to be. In other words, it's set before you even present it. And Kate was add the liaison to TO4, which to me is unfair against those who are in the minority group most of the time. Because let's just be honest now, Kate, you got things set up to control and to limit board members from putting on the agenda what you don't want on the agenda.
That's not true.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm
That's
not
not
a
true.
lia- I'm
Okay,
not a
Chris,
liaison.
Chris, you're
All right.
talking
All
to
right, I'm about
me
you.
about a
All right.
proposal.
So this is what it does. There's no reason
I would agree.
2018.
I would agree to that.
Yeah,
I would
yeah.
agree to that if the board decided whether it went to the board agenda. See, I
Yeah.
thought about that, Chris,
Yeah.
but what happens is, we don't stop anything from the Cal meeting going directly to the board agenda. So all you would be doing is saying, I can't get 4 people to put it on the board agenda, I'll just get 2 people to put it on the Cal agenda, and per the other policies, it already says it goes automatically. We don't determine whether it does or doesn't go to the board meeting. I would agree to the 2 people to the Cal, if you let me take this back and simultaneously put into the other policy that items don't leave the Cal unless we decide they're going to the board meeting. Because what happens is 2 people get it on the Cal, which means 2 people get it on the board meeting. Because we don't,
Okay, so
because the other, so,
my thought is that if the 2 people get on the committee at the whole agenda, the board got to approve it first. because it
no,
goes to the Kyle.
that's just it.
That's not what we're doing?
No, not the language in the other policy
Well, we
is,
can fix that.
all we can do is say potential consent or not. We don't say it doesn't go to the agenda.
Oh, I thought we did. Okay,
Right.
Yeah, but I
So,
agree to that.
My ultimate thing is, I agree with you, that
Y'all
we
agree-
should
y'all
set
agree
this
on
up.
something?
We-
I know, right?
Right.
Y'all agree with
I agree
something?
with that. Now, that
Yeah.
the committee
So-
the whole don't mean it goes to the board. The board approves it
Right.
first.
As it stands now, that's
Yeah.
not how it works.
So that's what I.
We
that's what
could
I
discuss that.
That's really the basis of the whole argument is that if it comes to committee the whole,
So-
the board hears it. And then
That's
it's
not on the
vetted.
table, but we'll have that discussion when it is. Is there a change you want to make to that bottom paragraph?
Yeah.
on
Anyway.
the First page.
So what I was saying is I don't want the full board members.
What do you want?
And then I wanted to be for the committee the whole, any 2 board members or 3 can present an item and the board will hear it.
So why would you have a lower standard for the committee of the whole than you would have for the board agenda?
Because committee is like a workshop. This is where you vet ideas at. It's where they're created at. You go through stuff, you screen them. But at the board
It's
meeting.
not.
At the
We
board
don't
meeting.
screen items.
The
They
board
go
meeting.
directly to the board agenda.
The board meeting, you don't have time for that. The board meeting don't have time to dig through all the items like that and all the questions.
So we can consider you want 3 with no
Council's
liaison.
3 with no.
All
Yeah,
right,
3 with no
Kevin?
liaison.
No, I just was saying, at county council, any 3 council members can put anything on the agenda. Why are we different?
Because the county council doesn't allow discussion at the county council meeting either.
But 3 people can put an item on the agenda.
They put it on there, but it's
Discuss it
no for now
somewhere.
vote. So Kevin, did you have anything you wanted to discuss?
That's, I just said 3.
All right, so I'm not gonna accept that, but if this fails, we can come back just like on Chris's and come back with other ones. So what I will accept from Kate is the friendly amendment of the very last paragraph going away. So that goes away.
Yeah.
And,
Supermajority 7 votes.
I think.
no,
Reverend Collins had-
supermajority of present, so one sits are present, 4 is a supermajority.
What about the request from Collins had about from noon to?
I didn't
That's
address that in my
that's
policy.
on a
That's on the
separate-
third-
that's
that's
on
on
his.
That'd be verse
That's not
3.
my policy. And I gotta ask y'all as a committee before we vote on mine, how tight are y'all, those of you who think the liaison should be one of the 4, how committed are y'all to that?
Well, I think the liaison should be a part of it, and I'll tell you why. A board member can come up with 10 items to put on the agenda. I think in order for us to be able to, if the liaison is going to be the person that's responsible for that committee, then they need to be in communication with staff as to making sure that the background information or the research is done, so that when these information come before us, we can clearly vet it out and we'll have that research or that background, that work has already been done. Or there may be a list of other items that staff needs to bring to us that is very pertinent that we do need to discuss. Well, the liaison is involved in that process and making sure that we have these things prioritized and that we're not just spinning our wheels on items that we already voted on, or having to have staff to rework or to do additional work unnecessarily. I think we spend a lot of time, not to say that any item is not worthy for discussion, but I think if we just take away the liaison, then there won't be a need for the liaison, because then there won't be any control as to how the agenda is formed and the items that come.
It's the same
Priscilla,
thing.
I know
It's the
you're,
same
I
thing.
think
Why
I've got
have it
something that'll
discussed?
work for you, because I know Priscilla's very committed to the liaison being involved in the agenda
Well,
process.
But Because I think the way Chris worded it is the liaison's keeping things from being on the agenda. The liaison can also put things on the agenda.
Without our
if-
permit,
if-
without our consent.
If the board, call me up, send me an email.
Okay.
It doesn't mean
can't
just
have
because you
power-
suggested
you
it, I'm
can't
not
have
gonna
power
do
on
it.
It's Chris Dobbs' turn. Chris?
All right, so I think the real issue here is we don't want a liaison to improperly keep somebody's information on the agenda.
Perfect.
Maybe as a solution here. So the original, the way it's written right now, what is it, 2 people plus the liaison of 3 total?
Yep.
But if there is a situation where the liaison, and I can understand a liaison needing to be involved so that they can think through, here's our program for the year, but we wouldn't want a liaison to single out a single member and not let them have something on their agenda. So maybe it's but if a liaison blocks this
I'm
person
with
from
you.
what's on
That's
there more than
exactly what
one
I'm
month, they don't get to do that. You
What
might get
about
to-
this?
you know,
What about this, guys?
or with good reason, provide their,
One of the other issues, and we can clean it up, is it can be that, well, we can say 3 people can have an item on the agenda, one of whom must be the liaison. And what trips us up is it has to be presented, I can reword this so that it's presented to the liaison. If the liaison says no, the 2 people can appeal it to the committee of the whole chair, and the committee of the whole chair can make a final ruling.
oh, you know I'll let it go on.
That's a good idea.
So what you've got
So you
is,
got 2 chances.
right, so here's what happens. Chris and Kevin want something on the agenda, Priscilla says no, but they can appeal that, and the one person that can be the third beyond the liaison would be whoever's the committee of the whole
And then
chair.
if Priscilla tells me some great reason, I can communicate it to you.
Right.
If it's just spite, and I'll
So
say.
the language
"Oh."
will be, I'll go back to, I'll go back and say
I'm not
that
that
any
smart.
3 people, so this is how we're gonna
Does that
change
work?
it. Remove that,
Walking
consistent with policy BEDA.
Right.
So it'll say 3 board members may submit an item to be placed on the COW agenda, one of whom must be the liaison. If the liaison refuses to place it on the agenda, the 2 board members can appeal to the committee of the whole chair, and that person has the final say. So I'll agree to that
But
change.
the board has the final say, I think.
I'll treat everybody fairly.
So then I'm making this proposal, is there a second?
Second.
You be
So we have a
doing that.
motion,
You'd be
and we have a
crazy.
second.
Can I
Hopefully you
ask
get
a
some
question?
change in the
of the
language,
group?
man.
Still
So,
would be the majority.
can I
of that.
ask you guys a question?
I'm
So
good,
this
I'm
whole,
good.
the whole issue of 2 minutes or 2 questions, is there a better solution? Chris and Chris.
Just 1 second.
Okay.
You're talking about the same policy.
I know, but wait, I want your input
Okay,
on this.
okay, good.
So how can we better manage, is there a better way for us to manage the whole 2 minutes, 5 minutes,
We
2
are,
questions?
we are one and
Turn
a half.
off the TV camera.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yes.
Well, we can't do that because we owe it to the public for them to be able to see the meeting if they can attend.
Then-
I know, we all, but there's some pontificating.
It is absolutely, so I think the best solution is the number of questions, and we
Yeah.
keep going
Okay.
around the circle
2
until they
questions.
decide.
Okay.
Let me answer that also. See, for me, here's what I find. If a person is saying something that we agree with or we don't mind, we let that person talk 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes. They go on, babbling on, running up the mouth. But then in a minute, something we don't agree with, we want to enforce a 2-minute rule. Or even in 1 minute, or we want to rule the closed discussion. But it doesn't work that way. If you're serving the public, you serve as a public servant, starting with your board members, fellow board members, colleagues, treating them fairly first. We can't set up ourselves that, for that if Reverend Collins brings something we're afraid of, that we're going to shut that down and control it. You know, I'm the chairman. Somebody called the ones I appointed to this committee, and they're going to say, well, I'll tell them no, they'll say no. And too many times, Ms. Darby, under your leadership like this, you've been controlling ideas.
I would
You've been
love-
controlling board members.
Right. Well, you said, I would love for both you and Cindy to watch the videos of both committee of the whole and board meetings, and you would see that nobody speaks for 30 minutes. No, not one board member ever
Well,
speaks for
they
30
don't.
minutes. Not for total 30 minutes, but I think we really try to do the 2 minute, and it isn't an issue of we agree or we don't agree. We have a policy and we need to follow it.
Just understand that it's not about who controls the agenda. It's about giving the agenda fair access to everybody and vetting the ideas and let the board decide as a whole what goes forward, what don't go forward.
Well, good, because that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna call the question.
When you try to take it in your own liberty, point, and your own authority to control the agenda,
Chris.
that creates a major problem.
Chris
for
and
me.
Kate, this is a conversation for the board, not for you two.
Thank you,
So,
this is,
Mr. Miller?
something.
Well, I think it's important that we have some level of board decorum when we are in meetings, whether it be Cal or in our board meetings on Mondays. The question really becomes is how do you allow board members to speak to issues and ask questions that, one, obviously hopefully make sense and are going in a certain direction, but not at the same time stifling a person's ability to ask questions, right? I mean, you take today, for example, the last couple CAL meetings that we've had the principal presentations. I historically ask more questions than anybody else when it comes to those presentations. But based on these policies, I would not be able to ask those questions because there's either limited time or limited questions.
No.
Right?
You would be allowed if the committee that's sitting here before you, if your peers say you can continue, you can
But
continue.
that's my point. I don't
Shouldn't have to.
believe that you guys should have the authority
That's
on
right.
whether or not I can ask questions that I think are pertinent. I mean, I
It's
think
not your job to do that.
if I'm belaboring the point or if I'm beating a dead horse, pardon the expression, well, then that's different. But if a person's asking questions to Jeff Barori about something and their 5 minutes is up, or they've already asked and they've already had 3 questions, I don't think I should say, well, Eric, you gotta stop asking questions because you already had your 3. No,
So,
I don't think we should be able to do
I
that.
think the point is that number one, every single person in this room picks up the phone and calls an individual staff member at will. Not a single one of us doesn't do that. Number two, even Chris sent out a note. Staff is required to be available at specific times to answer your questions. We're not saying you shouldn't have your questions answered. We're saying how many of them should be done sitting here as opposed to you getting what you need to make the decision. We're a body politic. Your job is to get your constituents' input, vote the will of the people that put you in here, and none of them are in this room. So your real conversations, shouldn't they happen so that you can be talking to the people you represent? As opposed to all of the questions being asked here. Because I agree, my thing originally said staff had to be available to y'all.
And I don't disagree with that,
Right.
but I think in order to really properly articulate messages to our constituency, we need to be able, those 3 reports that those principals gave today was the first time I've ever heard that.
Right, so you should be able to ask questions.
So I gotta be able to ask those questions in any attempt
And
to
I think
limit how
everybody
many
in
questions
this, I think
can
everybody in
ask.
this room would have said, keep going.
You know.
But when you're beating a dead horse, I think we
Right.
ought to have the right to say stop.
And that's what,
And I
that's
should
part
be,
of the problem.
and I also should be able to have enough wherewithal to say, okay, you know what, I'm done.
Right.
So is it really the board policing
Us,
or us policing
It's us
ourselves?
policing ourselves.
And I think that's the method, I think that's the place and direction we ought to be going.
Right.
Versus saying, no, you can't do that because I'm tired of hearing you
Which
talk.
is-
Which I've heard other board members say. I'm
which is
tired of-
why at every turn in here, it puts it to a board vote as opposed to anything else.
But
So,
the vote should be, the vote should, like I said, shouldn't be to stop it, I mean, to continue it, but Todd's always in a hurry oftentimes. He's ready to go sometime when he gets, he's in a hurry.
you can't stop it
Don't
without a
much discussion.
supermajority if you agree with them.
So what I'm saying, if a person's talking, he shouldn't be alone to say, hey, well, I had enough of it, and now you gotta get 6 voters to, 6 people to vote, say, well, you
Right, he
continue on.
won't. He can't do it without a supermajority.
It should take 6 to shut it down, not to
It
continue
takes
it.
a supermajority of who's present. I want to be clear
To
on that.
shut it
because
down, not to continue it.
the motion is the motion. But I want to be clear that in
Okay,
case
cool.
somebody missed that, because I thought about that. What if 6 people show up? 7's a supermajority. It's the supermajority of the
Those
present.
present, right.
All right, so Priscilla, on this one, with the last paragraph removed and the liaison compromise that we came up with, how do you vote?
The last
you want out.
paragraph, meaning,
The very
you want out,
last
right?
paragraph.
so we're gonna have no time limits?
No, we will.
No,
With a
time-
super majority, okay.
Yeah.
Right. The
Just
supermajority's still there, just that thing at the
Why?
end.
Okay, sure.
Kevin,
Come back to me.
Stobbs,
Supermajority, continue the debate. In order to continue the debate,
One making sure that.
no.
this is after you've had a chance to talk for a while.
Right.
This is like if you want to continue the speak,
Right.
continuing it. Past the, this is like someone calls the question, you take a vote. Supermajority vote is of committee. Can you continue past But past Todd's called the question. I mean, that's because Todd's the one who always calls the question.
It's not even
So-
calling the questions, continuing debate. It's
So why
not-
do we need a super majority for that? Why can't it just be 5 board members?
Because I feel like something that would shut people talking down needs to be more than a simple majority.
With 5 people, I mean, a majority can
Chris?
do that.
Wait a second, you're saying something to stop from
Right,
shutting
because
people
you
down?
have it to
Yeah,
continue.
right, well, so to continue, okay, so do you want,
It would be either or, based on how you have it
it
written.
could probably be either or, because you have to get
But
a
it says
super majority.
continuing.
Right.
I honestly don't have a problem with the way you read it, but Reverend Collins does.
I know, he has a
I'm fine.
problem.
I'm fine
I'm
with
asking
this.
for your
I'm voting
vote.
yes, but
Okay.
I don't have a problem with that, but I see where you're.
Okay, Collins, your vote, please?
I'm gonna vote no. Wait a minute, let's clarify the motion again. Give me the motion again.
The
This is the last
motion-
paragraph.
Motion-
So this is going.
The motion is the last paragraph removed.
The big red one.
Mm-hmm.
And 3 board members, one of whom must be the liaison if the.
You go with 3.
Just let me finish.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes. 3 board members, one of whom must be the liaison. However, if the liaison refuses, the other 2 board members can appeal to the committee of the whole chair and they can override the
I
liaison.
go with yes on that.
Yeah.
So, Kate, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Miller, how do you vote? Miss Reverend Mack? And I vote yes, so that carries.
I didn't vote yet, I didn't vote yet, man.
Yeah, you did. I thought you said no. Chris,
I didn't say no, but I'm saying no.
okay. Chris, I've recorded your vote, so I'll make the
But
changes.
Kevin, we don't have Kevin's vote.
No, Kevin said yes while Chris was sitting there talking. That's
Okay.
why I recorded a
Okay,
yes for
sorry.
Kevin and a no for Chris. Yeah, I recorded Collins's no.
Okay.
So, but thank you for some changes.
So I will have it ready for that.
So it goes
So
to
the
board
next
meeting.
item before you is, and I apologize,
Policy
Oh, wait, let's
FBA.
go back to the time on the first one, we read to the,
we passed this one, so there's no reason
no,
for
the
you.
time, it's just, yours would affect the time. The time is in the first proposal,
She kept the time as the same.
but we have it till Monday evening to close out, Monday evening.
What does yours say?
Mine
It
didn't.
didn't change the time.
That's what it doesn't
Because,
say. We can vote at the
because,
time.
end of day Monday and 8 o'clock on Tuesday are the same thing. We don't force board members to work at 7 o'clock at night, so.
No, to have it in by the end of Monday is what I'm asking the board for.
It's the same thing
Tomorrow
as.
night?
Same
No, it's
thing
not.
morning. Well, I mean,
Chris.
yes.
They're not working at night.
Right, so if you submit it at the end of the day Monday, they're still not working on it till Tuesday. We're still taking away Monday for them to work on it. All right, so the next item before us is policy FBA. It is a capital maintenance plan amendment. I assume everyone
we
has
not vote
read
on the
it,
top?
and there's really only one change on the top and the addition at the bottom. So does anyone have any questions?
I just want to make sure I understand, Mr. Coates. You're saying that we cannot vote on the time? What are you saying? It's
I'm
on the
saying
table.
that as it was written, just passed, first reading.
Yours did, but I actually voted the times.
Sure,
It's on the
okay, so
table.
Chris wants you to vote on his version of policy
It's a
BDE.
But
time
it only
only.
changes the date.
Time.
May I?
We're asking.
Chris wants you to vote on his policy of BDE that removes it and says any 2 board members.
No, that's not what I'm asking
He just wants
for.
the time.
The time.
May I please finish a sentence?
Decorum, folks.
You captured all this?
So Chris wants us to vote on his version that has only 2 board members, but the time on the next page is what, Chris, you wanted at the close of business on Monday? Is that what you
Right there on the
wanted?
front page, just change that from, instead of 8:30 Tuesday, that will close the business on Monday.
So he wants to vote on his version of BDE as is written, except close of business on Monday.
No.
Just a time only,
No,
Kate.
all he
Just a
wants
time
to
only.
vote on the policy we just approved.
No, it's a time only.
I know.
The
Yeah,
policy we
she's saying what
just
you're saying.
approved, but change the time to the end of business on
All right, that'll
Monday.
work.
Right?
Yeah, that'll work,
That's what you're
yeah.
asking.
Yeah, that'll work.
So we've already voted, it passed without that. You can bring that back when we vote on it in the board
No, we
meeting.
can vote on it right now.
Okay, so Chris wants to change the time in policy BDE from noon on Monday to end of business, Chris?
On Monday.
Miss Priscilla, how do you vote?
No.
Kevin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Stobbs, how do
Yes.
you vote?
Yes.
Huh?
Yes.
Collins, how do you
Yes.
vote? Kate, how do you vote?
No.
Miller?
Why are we voting on this?
Because Chris won't stop talking until we do.
That's either yes or no.
But what? No.
Mac, how do you vote?
No.
And I vote no, so the motion fails.
Thank you kindly.
Thank you.
Tried it.
Policy
We tried it, that's
FBA,
right.
as I said, I'm waiting for someone to call the question.
I have made a motion to approve. We need a second.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. May I ask, I have two questions, Jeff. One, it says adjustments will be reported quarterly, and that's on the last page. And then one of the first ones that's actually not a change was the first bullet on the first page says the plan will be updated quarterly. I'd like to see us, because we've had some policies like that, where the date that it comes to the meeting. I think like we have a reading policy that says in August of every year. So maybe we can say the first month of the quarter so that we know when to anticipate. Jarita, I'm more or less thinking along the lines that you plan out the agenda. I'd like to see it more specific. The adjustments, what would be the difficulty of doing that monthly? Since they are simply just a board update.
No problem, I don't think.
Instead of quarterly, because I think what we're wanting to do is one of the things board members is asked about the most is, when's my school gonna be done? Or when's this, or what's that, or can I have this or that? If we know monthly what's happening, we can be better prepared.
Even for the capital maintenance.
Even the changes, I'm talking about the adjustments. Right here, the last sentence.
Yes, ma'am, that's your.
Do y'all concur with that?
I do this because I think people stop me in the street and they ask about schools and projects, and if it's coming out quarterly, then I don't have updated information. But if I
Something
know,
was done in March and we don't know.
right,
till
like the
August.
stuff with Goodwin that we voted today, right? If that wasn't on the agenda, we wouldn't have gotten to that until 3 months later, so I wouldn't have been able to.
But you know, this doesn't govern the new construction in any way, right?
Hell
This
no.
is just the capital.
This is just maintenance,
It
right?
sounded like you were asking about updates.
No.
School.
I'm asking specifically.
Yeah, she
about
mentioned
this.
school opening.
I'm sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
So, anybody else? Priscilla, how do you vote?
Yes.
Colin Shedd?
Yeah.
Chris Stobbs?
Yes?
Chris Collins?
Yes, ma'am.
Kate Darby?
Yes.
Michael?
Mm-hmm.
Reverend Mack?
Yes.
And I vote yes, the motion carries. The next item before us is a change to first reading of naming of the facilities. I think that I will defer this to Jeff, because I think that DJBA is the reason we're doing FF, so you might want to talk about why we would agree to this, because what you need on that. So they're not really two different
I do
conversations.
have a question on that also.
So these are to be done in conjunction.
Right, so I want y'all to know that we're talking about both DJBA and FF at the same time right now. So if you have a question on either one of those policy proposals, that's what Jeff's going to present, and y'all can ask.
So working with council and with procurement, we identified the need to change both policies to give the district an opportunity to name stadiums through a revenue source. And so we want to have the ability with the naming facilities policy change to consider naming stadiums through a revenue generating policy that is then governed by the contract enhancement, revenue enhancement contract, DJBA. So in the end, what would happen is if we believe that naming a stadium using a revenue enhancement contract is valid, we would come to you for approval to do that. You would give us the approval if you want us to pursue that, and then we would execute it based on the change to DJBA. We would generate a contract to do that. So it doesn't guarantee stadiums to be done this way, but gives you all an opportunity to say it's okay to do that as a way to bring in revenue for the district.
So then,
Reverend Collins?
when you say revenue generating contract and bidding, I guess you just elaborate on that phrase to ask my question. Explain what you really mean in layman's terms.
Money.
Money. Money. But what do you mean?
We would provide naming rights to our facility. So we
To the
would,
highest bidder?
the highest bidder, we would define how that bid is worked out through, as it's described in here. It could include sales incentives such as scholarships, awards, athletic team support. They would present a package for that particular stadium facility to have their name put on
I
it.
can give you an example. Dorman's football stadium in Spartanburg is named after the father of a graduate who is in the NFL, who paid $1 million to help them build the stadium if they would name it after his daddy. That's been done in other places.
That's what I thought you were getting at. But, I'm going to tell you what I like. But I like naming things after someone that has worked hard in education, dealing with children, affecting children, earning respect in the community. I don't care whether they have money or don't have money, but they're just for a good person supporting our kids. And to me, that works. If we get somebody honorable, I mean, you can find lots of people with money that can. I mean, I understand the concept that it generates money, but if we build it right, put the right kind of vendors there, and even maybe have some retail space perhaps, or something. The stadium can make the North Johnson Stadium, for example, can generate lots of money. But like I get the feeling that's what's going to be the regional stadiums or the bigger stadiums going to be start being named after those with money. Not that it's a bad idea. I just prefer to name it to somebody local who's been involved.
Okay.
So
First needs to be
I'm
alive
sorry,
with-
Kevin, I didn't see you.
First needs to be alive with that.
Eric.
Well,
Kevin,
I don't
then
know.
Kate,
I
then
don't know.
Eric.
Depends. If it's me alive.
Chris, it's Kevin's turn.
In order to build a bigger stadium, what Jeff is proposing makes a lot of sense. So therefore, I make a motion that policy FF be approved for the first reading.
Second.
build a bigger
And
stadium or
do you
something?
concur with DJ
Yes.
Biega as well?
Yes.
Kate, do you want to be heard or you want to call the question?
call the question.
Eric, do you want to be heard or you want to call the question?
I got one
Okay.
comment.
Stops.
Yeah.
That could be no bigger stadium.
Well,
Stops if you're going to talk.
Yeah, my comment is,
You understand.
this policy, are we gonna put in there anywhere that's gonna protect to make sure we don't end up with something like, now here's a picture of the Mount Pleasant Christmas Parade a couple years ago. One of the companies that decided to sponsor one of the things. I
Who's
don't
that?
wanna have the
What
Guilty
company is that?
Pleasure Stadium.
Oh, yeah, that's what we
He
need.
said he's gonna bring it to us.
Well, that, and I think that would be out.
Comes from board approval.
Yes.
Still gotta come for board approval.
But does the revenue affect the size of the stadium that you would generate? Anything to do with the size of the stadium? Or the billing of it?
I think that, I don't think I don't think we'll get to a point where somebody would offer to provide additional seating for the stadium.
That's
That's
what I'm
not
saying.
within the
That's
realm of
what-
possibility. If they come in and say, if you name the stadium after our company, we'll install another 1,000 seats.
Yeah.
It's possible.
That's
If you-
Anything's
Yeah,
possible.
yeah, it's possible, I mean, to do
If he
it.
markets it right, he can go to, say, for example, AT&T, I still support my motion. He can go to AT&T and AT&T says, well, okay, we're interested in this land and building a larger footprint stadium. We'll give $1 million toward it, or we want to be involved in the design and expansion of it. If you have a marketing team and you do it right, yes, you can. The Silver's got $350,000 a year for the next 10 years from tax accommodation money to add their footprint to their school. We don't think business around here in that particular aspect. So the motion stands.
One, and so I do want to be heard.
Okay.
So I agree with you, I think, but it's not that we don't think business around here. We haven't had a policy that it's allowed us to do that.
Well, now we all moving forward on one.
My son played baseball, varsity baseball, and we went all around South Carolina, and all these school districts that I don't think were the caliber of Charleston County had named facilities.
Were they named after people or
But
entities?
some of both, and I understand what Reverend Tom's saying about honoring people, but I think, the MUSC whatever is gonna get us, right, is how we need to do it. So I agree with what the proposal.
Priscilla, how do you vote? And what we are doing is taking a vote
Yes.
on both policies.
Yes.
Kevin's motion's for both.
Yep.
Kevin,
Yes.
Stobbs,
No, but it's because I just don't like the idea of selling our names like that.
Collins,
I wouldn't know.
You gonna make this
Darby?
look good.
Yes.
Mr. Miller,
Straight cash, homie.
Just be
That's a Randy Moss.
I'm 54 and white. I need a yes or no,
Why would we take
please.
the money?
Reverend Mack,
Come on.
Answer the cash.
I vote no, the motion carries. I would
You
like
made the
to,
motion and
Wait,
you
how did
voted.
Reverend Collins vote?
No.
Oh, she voted no?
Who was with Chris?
I would entertain a motion to go ahead and send this directly to potential consent, since it's clear that it will pass first reading at the board meeting anyway.
Not policies.
I said I would entertain a motion,
No.
Chris. I didn't say that we were gonna ask you your opinion.
Is that what we're
So
doing?
is there a motion?
Make the motion.
Second.
I'm
Sir-
gonna speak to the camera.
So we're gonna vote to whether this should go straight to potential consent or stay on the
But
regular agenda
hold
item.
on now, but you're violating policy now. Policy already told you, if it's all unanimous support already.
What?
Somebody vote.
And as you like to say, we're the board, we can do anything we want.
Is that valid policy?
Right, you tried to do that earlier.
Right, you guys,
Priscilla?
we're losing our whole
Yes.
forum piece again.
Kevin?
We lost that.
Potential consent. Chris? Potential
No.
consent. Collins?
I'm not voting on that. There's a legal
Abstention?
vote.
Just vote
Kate?
no.
Potential consent.
No.
No.
And Mac?
It don't matter.
It don't matter.
It's gonna fail anyway. Jarita, can you get us some,
And I vote no, so it fails, and it will be on the regular agenda item.
Okay.
Liquor.
The next item before us is a waiver of one additional
I didn't make a motion.
instructional day.
Wait, what about policy DFAC?
I'm sorry, I wonder why that was in front of me. This is, guys, this is the policy you approved first reading. Just in case you had any questions, we brought it here. It has not changed since you approved first reading. I want you to know it's gonna be on the agenda for second
This is
reading.
Don, so.
We all good with that?
Yep.
All right. We need a waiver of one additional instructional day for
Make a
East.
motion to waive the one additional subject.
I second.
What about instructional time?
See, Scooper Monster.
It's East Cooper Monster.
Alright. Wait a minute, what is
They
that
don't have
supposed
color
to mean?
printers. They don't have color printers, remember?
Oh, yeah.
Priscilla,
Oh,
how do you vote?
Yes.
I'm sorry, Priscilla?
Yes.
Kevin? Stops?
Yes,
Chris?
Yes?
it means they do
Kate?
fine.
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
To waive the one instructional day?
At East Cooper Montessori. Mac?
Yes.
And I vote yes, and the motion carries. Michael, would you entertain letting that go to potential consent?
Sure thing.
All right, so Michael has agreed that we can put that one under potential consent. Jarita, are you capturing that?
We are.
So we have, I believe there's some that were unanimous, and
There you
in
go.
addition to those, F is going to potential consent.
Incentivizing me.
I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Other business, we got the South Carolina School Boards Association Director nomination.
I'll be it.
Did you want to do it again?
I do,
I do this year, not Cindy.
How many, is that every year?
yes.
Yeah.
How many times, how many years you did it?
I filled Todd's unexpired term. So I've been
Well, you had it before, didn't you, though?
I nominate Cindy
I will
for
second, no.
school board,
Yeah.
our school, South Carolina School Board Association Region 2 Director.
Cindy's been it 5 times already.
But think about it, she gets to share her love with all those people out there.
I
Can't
know.
imagine why.
But I know she did it.
Okay,
once,
I
though.
second if we have.
Call the code, call the question.
Aye.
Mr.
Oh,
Hollingshad,
yeah,
not here. Ms. Jeffrey?
Yes.
Mr. Stobbs?
Yes.
Reverend Collins?
Yes.
Look at you.
Mr.
supporting
Miller?
this code.
Taking like.
She can get it busy,
Mr. Miller?
keep her busy, that's all.
That's what I mean.
Reverend Mack?
Yes.
Ms. Coates?
Yes.
I vote yes, the motion passes.
All right, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Like a good point.
And I gotta tell you
Time to
something.
go.
Second the motion on East Cooper.
May I just add
Sorry,
something
yeah.
after the fact? Mr. Collins said isn't here, but because this was mentioned publicly, I do want to clarify that there was a request for the school district to make some deposits to a specific financial institution.
Yeah.
And that didn't come to the agenda, on the board agenda, because we have to observe our policy and laws. But we are following up with that as appropriate. So Don Kennedy has that request and is following up as appropriate with some individuals who are involved to see if there's a way that the school district can be of assistance to help them reach their goal without
I would
the
like-
specific request that was made of us, because we are not permitted
Yeah.
to move the school district.
Right, you can't put something that's not insured. But I have some other ideas about how to possibly help them, because I ran credit unions, so I know there's some things we could do.
Do you put your account there?
Can I,
Your personal account?
Can I talk to John?
Mr. Kennedy would be the
All right.
person, he is
The
following up.
problem is, it's one unit located downtown without ATMs, and in this day and age, credit unions can co-op ATMs. Meaning you can go to another credit union and be using same credit union. So
We did federal.
We did not settle.
So give Cindy the application for the open of a new account.
But that's their big.
Okay, so we're adjourned.
We're adjourned.
Thank you.
Oh, my.
Why am I doing this?